Let me tell you something that might just rewire the way you think about being attractive. Being attractive isn't about six packs, makeup, perfect hair, or a curated Instagram feed. You know what's really magnetic. Self-respect, presence, calm energy, integrity. People feel your energy before they hear your words, and that energy is built from habits. Quiet, subtle, daily habits that stack up into something extraordinary. So today, I want to walk you through 11 habits that will make you silently attractive, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're finally showing up for yourself. Let's dive in. 1. You don't chase, you attract. Attractive people aren't desperate. They're not begging for attention, validation, or love. They know their worth, they're grounded. They're not checking if you watched their stories or liked their photo. They're building something real, and that energy, it's magnetic. You don't chase when you know who you are. You attract by becoming it. 2. You make eye contact and mean it. We're living in a distracted world. You want to stand out. Put your phone down and look someone in the eye. Actually see them. Presence is rare, and when you look someone in the eye not with arrogance, but with intention, you say, I'm here, I see you. And people are drawn to people who see them. 3. You speak less, but with purpose. You don't need to talk all the time to be powerful. In fact, the more confident you are, the less you feel the need to fill silence. Attractive people aren't performing. They're grounded in themselves. They speak when they have something to say, not when they need something to prove. 4. You have unshakable routines. There's something sexy about discipline. Waking up early, moving your body, staying committed to your habits. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but people feel it. You become a person of reliability, and that kind of self-command, that's rare and wildly attractive. 5. You don't overshare. You create mystery. Attractive people don't tell you everything in the first 5 minutes. They're comfortable keeping parts of themselves sacred. You don't need to post your whole life. You don't need to explain every emotion. A little mystery is powerful. It invites curiosity, and curiosity is the root of attraction. 6. You're deeply interested, not desperate to be interesting. The people who draw others in. They ask questions. They actually listen. They make you feel like you matter. That's the twist. If you want to be more attractive, be more interested in others than obsessed with proving yourself. People don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. 7. You handle rejection with grace. Let me be clear. Attractive people get rejected, ghosted, dumped, criticized, just like everyone else. But how they handle it, that's where the gold is. They don't beg, they don't crumble, they don't spiral, they nod, thank life for the lesson, and move forward. That's emotional power, that's grace, and that's damn attractive. 8. You dress for your standards, not for their approval. Style is silent communication. It's not about brands, it's about intention. Attractive people dress in a way that makes them feel aligned. They take care of themselves because they respect themselves. You want to be more magnetic? Start showing up like you already believe in your future self. 9. You set boundaries without apology. People are drawn to those who value their time, energy, and peace. Boundaries say, this is what I allow, this is what I don't. That clarity makes people feel safe around you. It also filters out those who don't respect your worth. And that, my friend, is the ultimate glow up. 10. You smile with intention, not approval. Seeking smiling isn't about being liked. It's about spreading warmth. There's a difference when you smile with intention, with generosity, not from people pleasing. You radiate calm. You become someone people feel good around, and that energy. It does more than 1,000 words ever could. 11. You're obsessed with growth. Let's land here. The most silently attractive people are constantly working on themselves, not to be perfect, but to be better than they were yesterday. They read, they reflect, they heal, they show up, they keep promises to themselves, and that quiet inner work, that's what makes them unshakable. Let me leave you with this. The world is loud, chaotic, and fake. You don't need to be louder, you need to be realer. Show up consistently, speak with intention, love yourself deeply, Guard your peace, and you'll become the kind of person who doesn't have to beg to be noticed, because your energy will say it all. You don't need to announce your value, just live it. Most people have confidence completely wrong. They think it's the loudest voice in the room, the one always talking, the one commanding attention, posting selfies with filters and clever captions, always needing to be seen. But that's not real confidence, that's performance, that's noise, that's insecurity in disguise, desperately trying to be validated. Real confidence, it's quiet, it's stable. It's the person who walks into a room and doesn't need to announce themselves. They're not worried about being the center of attention because they already know who they are. Confidence doesn't shout, it radiates, you feel it, you notice it, you respect it without even knowing why. That's what I want you to understand. If you want to be truly attractive, magnetic, powerful, you've got to learn to stop chasing loud and start building calm. Confidence isn't a look, it's not a status. It's a lifestyle, it's the way you carry yourself when no one's looking. It's how you talk to yourself when the lights go out and the world gets quiet, and it is built, not gifted. Now let me be honest with you. Confidence doesn't come from compliments. It comes from keeping promises, not to others, to yourself. When you say you're going to wake up early, and you do it, even when you don't feel like it. When you say you're going to speak up in that meeting, and you do it, even with a shaky voice. When you say you'll stop calling someone who disrespects you, and you actually stop, that's where real confidence grows, in the tiny moments where you choose yourself, in the discipline, in the follow-through, in the repetition of I showed up for me today. And listen, confidence isn't about being fearless. Confidence is doing the thing while you're afraid. It's showing up while your knees are shaking. It's sending the email, making the call, applying for the opportunity. Not because you feel ready, but because you've decided that your future deserves to be fought for. The loudest people in the room. Most of them are terrified of being seen for who they really are. They need noise to hide their wounds, but the most silently attractive people you'll ever meet, they're self-aware, they're grounded. They're not chasing, they're attracting. Because when you're not trying to prove anything, people start to lean in. They sense that energy, it makes them curious, it makes them trust you, and most importantly, it makes you trust yourself. Think of someone you admire, not for their fame or flash, but for their presence. You know the type, the person who walks in and the energy shifts. They don't dominate the conversation, they don't interrupt. But when they speak, people listen. Why? Because they're intentional, because they're real, because they don't need to be right. They're just rooted in who they are. That's what you're aiming for, not fake confidence. Not borrowed confidence, rooted confidence, and here's something most people won't tell you. Confidence is lonely sometimes, because when you stop needing validation, you stop doing what everyone else is doing. You say no to things that waste your time, you remove yourself from gossip and drama, you spend time with yourself, you work in silence, you heal, you grow, and that can feel isolating, but that's the path. That's the way you become powerful without needing praise. Confidence also doesn't show up overnight. It's forged in fire. It's built every time you bounce back, every time you don't get the job, but you apply again. Every time someone rejects you, but you stay open. Every time you fail publicly, and you still choose to hold your head up. It's earned, not gifted. It's built, not bought. So what does calm, consistent, self-assured confidence look like? It looks like trusting yourself when no one claps. It looks like setting boundaries and keeping them. It looks like not explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It looks like walking away, not because you're weak, but because you know your worth. It looks like staying quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you don't need to say everything. It's patience, it's discipline, it's peace, and guess what? That kind of energy is wildly attractive. People are drawn to those who are calm in chaos, who can lead with certainty, who aren't flustered, frantic, or chasing, because the world is loud, reactive, insecure, And when you show up as calm and grounded, you're a lighthouse in the storm. You become unforgettable, not because you're trying to be, but because you already are. So stop trying to be loud. Stop trying to be liked. Start being someone you trust. That's where everything changes. When you trust yourself, you don't need attention, you don't need approval, you don't need noise, you are enough, you've got nothing to prove, just something to become. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who are quietly, deeply, unapologetically rooted in who they are, and that's what real confidence looks like. We talk so much about looks, charm, charisma, like that's what makes people attractive. But I'll tell you what truly pulls people in, your energy. That silent frequency you carry into every room, every conversation, every relationship. And you know what affects that energy more than anything else? How well you protect your peace and guard your vibe. People feel it when you're grounded. They feel it when you've done the work, when you've created space in your life for stillness, clarity, and presence. And they absolutely feel it when you're scattered, when your boundaries are broken, when your life is so noisy that your mind doesn't get a minute to breathe. Energy doesn't lie. You can fake a smile, but you can't fake peace. And that's why it's one of the most silently attractive things about a person. Protecting your peace means you stop letting every text, every post, every email yank you out of your center. It means you stop giving people power over how you feel. It's saying, I decide how I show up, I control my focus, I control my emotional state. And let's be real, most people don't. They're reacting all day long to headlines, to gossip, to criticism, to chaos. It's constant emotional whiplash, but silently attractive people, they opt out, they set boundaries, they say no. Without guilt, they leave the group chat when it gets toxic. They don't take every phone call. They don't follow everyone back. Why? Because they value their energy more than the illusion of connection. They'd rather have one honest, aligned friendship than 100 shallow likes. When you guard your vibe, you move differently. You stop going where you're not celebrated. You stop forcing conversations that drain you. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't get you. You start choosing peace over drama, depth over attention, stillness over noise. And let me tell you, that kind of inner security, it draws people in like a magnet. You want to know why some people walk into a room and you just feel something about them. It's not because they're loud. It's not because they're flashy. It's because they're aligned. Their energy is clean. They're not pretending. They're not drained. They're not trying to impress you, they're just whole, and that wholeness is rare. You don't find it scrolling endlessly through highlight reels. You find it in people who have gone inward, cleared the clutter, and made space for authenticity. Guarding your vibe also means letting go of things that no longer serve you. That means saying goodbye to the friendship that keeps crossing your boundaries. It means unfollowing accounts that trigger comparison or insecurity. It means quitting the habit of checking your phone before your feet hit the floor in the morning. These little decisions, they add up, and over time they clean your energy field. They sharpen your focus. They allow your inner voice to speak louder than the noise around you. And let me say this, protecting your peace doesn't mean being selfish. It means being self-respecting. It means realizing that you can't pour from an empty cup, that your energy is currency, and you've got to stop spending it on things that bankrupt you emotionally, that your vibe, your emotional baseline, is your responsibility. Not your partner's, not your boss's, yours. When you live this way, something amazing happens. You become incredibly magnetic without even trying, because people want to be around calm. People crave peace. In a world that is constantly demanding more, doing more, shouting louder, someone who is rooted, still, intentional, that's like water in the desert. It's irresistible, and the best part, you feel better too. You sleep deeper, you think clearer, you stop being consumed by other people's drama. You stop constantly overthinking what someone meant by a text, or if they're mad at you, or if you should post that thing just to keep up. You're not playing the game anymore, you're living in alignment, and that freedom, that's what makes you glow. So let's talk habits, because protecting your peace isn't just a mindset, it's built through small, daily choices. Waking up without diving into social media first thing, that's peace. Saying no to that dinner that drains you just because you should go, that's peace. Turning your phone on Do Not Disturb after 9 p.m. That's peace. Journaling, meditating, walking in silence, being unavailable to everything all the time. That's not weakness, that's power. That's the foundation of silent attraction. And let me be brutally honest, not everyone will like the new you. When you start protecting your peace, people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will get uncomfortable. Let them. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be free. And the ones who truly see you, who value your energy, they won't demand you lower your standards just to make them comfortable. They'll rise with you. The real glow up isn't aesthetic, it's energetic. It's the way your spirit feels after a day of alignment. It's the conversations that light you up, the habits that stabilize you, the choices that nourish, not drain you. That's the vibe, that's the energy. That's silent attraction. So if you're serious about becoming the kind of person who doesn't have to shout to be seen, start here. Protect your peace. Guard your vibe like your life depends on it, because it does. Your happiness, your clarity, your power, it all begins with the energy you choose to carry. Choose wisely, live intentionally, radiate quietly, because the most powerful people in the room aren't the loudest. They're the ones who mastered their own energy first. There's something unbelievably magnetic about a person who respects their own boundaries and holds them without apology, not defensively, not with anger, but with clarity. It's one of the most silently powerful things you can do because it signals something deep, something primal to everyone around you. I know my worth, and when you know your worth, you don't tolerate disrespect. You don't explain your value, you embody it. Most people don't get this. They think being liked means being available, agreeable, and nice to everyone, even when it's at the cost of their peace, their values, or their time. But here's the truth. When you don't respect your own limits, no one else will either. If you constantly allow people to interrupt your work, talk down to you, walk all over you, or drain your energy, it's not just about them, it's about what you're allowing. And let's be real, this isn't always easy. Setting boundaries is uncomfortable. You will disappoint people. Some will label you as rude or cold or difficult. But you've got to understand, those are just people who are benefiting from your lack of self-respect. People who love the version of you who said yes when you wanted to say no. And the moment you grow out of that, the moment you start choosing peace over approval, the moment you reclaim your time and your energy, everything shifts. Attractive people, the kind who light up a room without saying a word, they have boundaries like steel. They're not mean about it, but they're unshakable. They don't need to justify why they're not answering emails after 6 p.m. They don't explain why they're not available for a last-minute plan that doesn't align. They don't feel guilty about protecting their space because they understand something most people don't. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about keeping your peace in. When you set boundaries, you say, I respect my energy, I respect my time, I respect my mental clarity. And people feel that without a word. That's why it's silently attractive. Because it means you're not seeking permission. You're not needing constant reassurance. You are whole, and you're protecting that wholeness. Let's talk about what this actually looks like, because boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're about what you allow to continue. If someone repeatedly speaks to you with disrespect and you stay silent, that's a boundary issue. If you let your calendar get hijacked by everyone else's priorities, that's a boundary issue. If you never have time for yourself because you're always showing up for everyone else, yep, boundary. But here's the powerful part. The moment you start enforcing your standards, you start training the world how to treat you. You become a mirror. You stop attracting chaos. You stop attracting people who only want you for what you give. Because your energy becomes clear, and that clarity repels confusion. The right people will respect it. The wrong ones will reveal themselves. And here's a little truth bomb. Boundaries aren't about building walls. They're about building doors with locks. You can open the door, but not everyone gets a key. Some people only get the porch, and that's okay. You're not being harsh or being selective. Not everyone gets full access to you. That's not selfish. That's self-protective. Think about how attractive it is when someone honors their own schedule, when they turn down plans because they need rest and they don't over-explain it, when they say, "I don't engage in gossip," and leave the room if the conversation turns toxic. When they walk away from relationships that drain them, not with drama, but with dignity, that's strength. That's what people feel. There's also something incredibly attractive about someone who sets boundaries internally. They don't just set them with others, they set them with themselves. They don't scroll for hours mindlessly because they value their time. They don't allow negative self-talk to spiral out of control because they've trained their mind to shift gears. They say, "This is not the kind of thought I entertain." That level of self-boundary, that's self-mastery, that's a glow-up no mirror can reflect. And don't forget, your boundaries are also the foundation of your self-trust. Every time you say no to something that violates your values, you're saying yes to yourself. Every time you walk away from someone who doesn't respect you, you're building the muscle of self-worth. And that self-worth radiates in everything you do. It's in your posture, your tone, your choices, your silence. You don't have to shout about your worth when you live it. You don't have to post about your boundaries when you walk in them. You don't have to explain why you're not available. Your energy will speak louder than your words. And here's the secret no one tells you. People want boundaries. Deep down, they crave it. Because boundaries create safety. They create clarity. They create environments where honesty can thrive. And when you model that, when you show people it's possible to love deeply and protect fiercely, you give others permission to do the same. So don't lower your standards to fit into someone's comfort zone. Don't soften your voice to make others feel okay with your strength. Don't dim your presence to accommodate someone else's smallness. Stand in your clarity, honor your energy, respect your space, and let the world adjust accordingly. Because the people who are meant to be in your life will not only respect your boundaries, they'll be grateful for them. We live in a world that's addicted to distraction. People can't go 30 seconds without checking their phone. Conversations feel rushed. Eye contact is fleeting. Everyone's talking, but nobody's really listening. So when you become someone who is fully present, when you give your attention without checking out halfway through, you immediately stand out. It's rare, it's powerful, and it's one of the most silently attractive habits you can develop. Presence is a superpower. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not about dominating a room. It's about being in it, fully, being where your feet are, looking someone in the eye, making them feel like, in that moment, they're the only person that matters. When you do that, something shifts. You don't just hear people. You see them, you connect, and that kind of connection, that's magnetic. Here's what most people miss. You don't have to say a lot to be deeply charismatic. You just have to care. You just have to be there. And I'm not talking about being physically present while mentally scrolling through your to-do list. I mean truly being in the moment. When someone talks to you, are you listening to respond? Or are you listening to understand? There's a huge difference, and people can feel it. Attractive people, truly attractive people, make you feel safe, not because they have all the answers, but because they're present. They're not rushing the moment. They're not waiting for their turn to talk. They're not scanning the room for someone more important. They're here. That presence, that's respect, that's confidence. That's emotional intelligence. You want to elevate your presence. Start with this. Put your phone away, not just face down away. When you're in a conversation, give the person in front of you your full attention. Look at them, nod, respond, don't interrupt, don't jump in with your story, just hold space. You'll be amazed at how people open up, because no one feels seen anymore. Everyone's performing, editing, filtering. So when someone finally feels seen, they don't forget that, ever. You also become silently attractive by being present with yourself. That means not running from discomfort, not distracting yourself the second you feel boredom or anxiety. Most people scroll to avoid their thoughts, but attractive people, they sit with it, they breathe, they reflect, they journal, they ask, why am I feeling this? Instead of numbing out and that emotional depth. It builds resilience, it builds clarity, and it builds a presence that's felt, even when you don't say a word. Presence also means slowing down. You don't need to be in a rush all the time. When you walk into a room, take a breath. When you respond to a question, pause before answering. Give yourself space. The most powerful people are never frantic. They're not scrambling for words or approval. They're calm, they're measured, and that calm is contagious. People want to be around it because it feels safe. It feels steady, and in a chaotic world, that's rare. Let's be clear. Presence isn't just about how you interact with others. It's how you interact with your own life. When you eat, do you taste your food, or are you multitasking? When you walk, do you notice the sky, the trees, your breath? Or are you buried in your phone? When you sit with a loved one, are you truly there, or just physically in the room? These things matter because presence creates intimacy, it creates memory, it creates trust, and those things, they're the foundation of real connection and real attraction, and you want to know what's silently attractive. Someone who doesn't need to steal the spotlight, someone who listens, someone who doesn't interrupt, someone who doesn't need to be right all the time, someone who can sit in silence and not fill it with noise just to feel important. That restraint, that humility, that's strength, that's maturity, that's confidence in its purest form. You don't need to talk constantly to be interesting. You don't need to be everywhere to be relevant. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is sit back, be present, and actually engage. No agenda, no performance, just you, real, honest here, and let's talk about relationships, romantic, professional, or personal. Presence is everything. When someone knows you're with them, when they feel your full attention, they trust you more, they open up more, they want to be around you more, because presence is rare, and what's rare is valuable. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you wore, but they'll never forget how they felt when they were with you. That's what this is about, making people feel seen, safe, heard, and to do that, you've got to stop being everywhere and start being here. In the moment, in the conversation, in your body, in your breath. So the next time you're with someone, try this. Put everything down, look them in the eyes, say nothing until they finish speaking. Don't interrupt, don't solve, don't jump to a response. Just hold the space, let your presence speak for you, because in the end, it's not about being impressive. It's about being present. That's where real attraction lies. And when you learn how to give people that kind of presence, you don't have to chase anyone. They'll feel the difference and they'll remember you for it. There is something deeply, quietly powerful about a person who doesn't need to impress anyone. Someone who is at peace with who they are, who isn't constantly performing or pretending or seeking approval from people who don't even know themselves. That's rare, that's real. That's the kind of self-acceptance that creates an unshakable presence, the kind that turns heads not because you're loud, but because you're rooted. We're trained from the moment we're kids to fit in, to be liked, to shrink ourselves to make others comfortable. But if you spend your life performing for others, trying to match their expectations or chase their applause, you lose the one thing that truly makes you attractive, your authenticity. The quiet magnetism that comes from being totally, unapologetically yourself. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. People can feel when you're faking it. They might not say it out loud, but they sense it. They sense when you're overly agreeable, when you're pretending to be someone you're not just to fit into a conversation or a crowd, and that energy, it repels, it drains trust, it weakens connection. But authenticity, that draws people in. without you even trying. And being authentic isn't about telling people every little thing that pops into your head. It's not about being unfiltered and raw in every situation. That's not confidence. That's poor self-regulation. True authenticity is about alignment. It's when your words match your values, when your actions line up with your intentions, when your outer world reflects your inner truth. That kind of alignment, that's power. People who are quietly attractive live from their truth, not from trends. They don't need everyone to agree with them. They don't need to post every win. They're not chasing applause because they already approve of themselves. That's what authenticity gives you: freedom. You no longer have to hustle for your worth. You stop auditioning for your place in rooms you've already earned. You walk in and your energy says, I know who I am. I know what I bring. I don't need to convince anyone. You want to know why authenticity is so magnetic? Because it gives other people permission to drop the act too. When you show up as yourself, without trying to impress, you create space for others to do the same. And in that space, real connection happens. That's when the conversations get honest. That's when people let their guard down. That's when the walls fall and the soul shows up. But here's the thing: authenticity requires courage. It means you'll be misunderstood. It means you won't always be popular. It means you'll outgrow people who only liked the version of you who played small, who agreed with everything, who never challenged the status quo. That's part of the deal, but you've got to ask yourself, what's more important, being liked or being free? And here's another truth bomb: the more you love yourself, the less you need from other people. You stop looking for someone to complete you because you already feel whole. You stop seeking validation from social media because you validate yourself. You stop chasing people who don't see you because you see you. And when you carry yourself like that, with self-acceptance, not arrogance, you become someone others can't help but notice. Authentic people don't have to sell themselves. Their energy speaks. You can't fake that. You can't script it. You become it through the work, through healing, through reflection, through shedding the masks and roles that never really fit. You become it when you start asking, who am I, really? And then give yourself permission to live that answer, even if it scares you. You also have to realize that being authentic doesn't mean you have it all figured out. It means you're honest about where you are. It means you say, I don't know, when you don't. It means you stop pretending to be okay when you're not. That vulnerability, that's part of what makes you magnetic, because people aren't drawn to perfect. They're drawn to real, and being real doesn't mean you don't evolve. It means you're committed to growth on your terms. You stop living for optics. You stop waiting for permission. You stop editing yourself to match someone else's expectations. And in doing so, you start attracting the right people, the right opportunities, the right environments, because you're finally aligned. Let me be blunt. If you don't like who you are when no one's watching, you've got work to do, because that's the version of you the world eventually meets. And the more you run from it, the more you rely on performance. But when you do the work, when you start liking that unfiltered, unpolished, raw version of yourself, you stop hiding. And when you stop hiding, everything changes. People will notice. They won't always know why, but they'll feel it. Your presence becomes grounding. Your words carry weight. Your silence becomes powerful. You become someone who's not trying to be attractive. You just are, because authenticity is your natural state. You just have to return to it. So stop performing, stop editing, stop apologizing for your truth. Be bold, be weird, be deep, be quiet, be loud, be whatever the hell feels like you. Because when you stop trying to impress others, you start impressing yourself. And that's where the real power lies. That's where silent attraction begins.